We are, what the, I'm on, okay. Just for everybody's understanding, we have a technical difficulty that we're working on. As soon as that's resolved, we will have our joint meeting. So just hang tight, okay? We think we're going to have it resolved in about a minute. Thank you. We're ready? Okay, we are ready. So we will call this meeting to order and welcome everybody. And this is a joint meeting between the Historic Preservation Board and the ECHO Committee. And Zach, do you want to make any welcoming remarks?
Yes, my name is James Zacharias. I'm the chairman of the Historic Preservation Board, and I'd like to thank everybody for coming out today, and really do appreciate it. And would it be okay to go ahead and introduce the other members? We'll do that in a little bit.
Call the roll.
Oh, call the roll? Okay, no problem. But anyway, thanks for showing up today. Appreciate it.
Jill, you want to?
Roll for the ECHO Advisory Committee. Pat Northey,
I'm here.
Jay Pendergast,
Present.
Jeffrey Alt is out of town, Sarah Lee Morrissey,
Here.
Pat Patterson,
Here.
David Romeo,
Here.
Reggie Santilli,
Here.
And
Stacy
we'll need to
Simmons.
take an action on Reggie being online. We'll do that as soon as both the rolls are called.
Here.
Can't hear us? Well,
Here.
it's on.
Now.
I'm talking as,
Okay, Jack Surratt is out today. We have a quorum on the Historic Preservation Board. Zach Zacharias,
Here.
Gregory Holbrook is out today. Larry French,
Here.
Bonda Garrison,
Present.
Brian Polk,
Here.
Brian Wilson. He's out. But you do have a quorum.
okay.
We do not have a quorum. A quorum is 5 for historic preservation.
Okay, so how does that impact this meeting for purposes of meeting?
For the purposes of this meeting, it just means that the vote to approve the minutes. The discussions can still proceed.
Okay, great. Thank you for that clarification. And then we have an issue from ECHO that we need to get. Russ, would you like to tell us how we deal with Reggie being absent in person but on the call for extraordinary circumstances that she is ill, correct?
Yes, ma'am. So the board would make a motion, and if it passes, that she can participate because she is absent due to extraordinary circumstances, which have been found to generally be funeral, health, some type of issue. My understanding is it's a health issue, so if the board votes and allows her to participate, meaning she can also vote, then she can take action with the rest of the board.
Okay. And if we take action as a board or as a committee to allow that, that gives her full privileges?
To vote, yes, ma'am. She can always participate. It's just a matter of if you guys pass the motion excusing her absence due to extraordinary circumstances, she can participate and vote. She can be a voting member like she would if she was here.
Okay, so before we move into our business, do I have a motion from a member of the ECHO board to allow Reggie Santilli to
I'll make
be
a
with
motion.
us online.
I'll make a motion to allow Reggie Santilli to participate virtually.
Okay. Seconded by who? Mr. Patterson. Okay. I don't know that we need to have a discussion on that unless somebody wants to say something, and other than get well, Reggie. We hope you get well soon. With that, we will take a voice vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Reggie, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Thank you.
We hope you're feeling better.
Thanks. I
Okay.
got COVID.
Oh, oh dear. Well, thank you for staying home. Okay, then we will move to public participation. Or do we have anybody for public participation? Either historic or echo? No. Okay. Okay, we'll move to approval of the July 14th, 2022 Echo Advisory Committee meeting minutes. Has everybody from the Echo Board read those? Is there a motion, or no, we can file them as they are written if there are no objections. Correct, Mr. Patterson? Am I saying it right? Okay. We can approve them without objection. Oh, okay. Okay, so our minutes are approved without objection. Zach, is there anything you want to say about your minutes? I know you can't.
Yeah, so right now we can't really approve those minutes because we don't have a quorum. Would you want me to members here?
Sure.
Okay, so we have 4 members here with us today. We're just going to kind of go down the line and introduce everybody. I'll reintroduce myself. My name is Zach Zacharias, and I'm the Senior Curator of Education and History at the Museum of Arts and Sciences in Daytona Beach. Been with the museum for 28 years. And then to my left, going down, is
Brian Polk. I retired in 2018 after a long, enjoyable career with Florida State Parks. My last gig was at DeLeon Springs State Park, and I can tell you all the behind-the-scenes information about what happened at the sugar mill and the contract. So let me know if you want to hear about that later. So I have traveling history programs go throughout the county. That's my history hobby, and I have a couple of grandchildren. I have a couple of part-time jobs. Thank you.
I'm hitting it too many times. My name is Bondi Garrison, and I'm the immediate past president of the Ormond Beach Historical Society.
I'm Larry French. I'm a former executive director of the West Volusia Historical Society. Also was a Florida park ranger. I've also been in the publishing industry, educational publishing, and I'm now working in a ecotourism business, and I'm here now.
Are you underwater, Larry, yet? Where your house is? Are you underwater? No. What? Okay. Oh, okay. I know I was out by your place and it looked like it was getting real close. Okay. And so let's do that for the Echo Board for the benefit of the Historic Preservation Board and the people that are out here. Jay, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Jay Pendergast. I'm an architect in New Smyrna Beach. I've been around forever. I've been on the Echo Board for quite a few years. A previous president of the Echo Board, chairman, whatever. And I don't know what else to say. A lot of people know me.
They do, as they do. Mr. Patterson?
Pat Patterson, retired county council member after 10 years and a retired state legislator after 10 years. And just interested in everything.
Great. Stacy?
Stacy Simmons. I'm not sure. Let's see. I've worked for state government in the Department of Agriculture for many years. Just recently put on the board, so looking forward to learn more. Thanks.
You're doing a great job.
Good afternoon. My name's Sarah Lee Morrissey, and I am a city planner by training. Worked for the city of Daytona Beach, and then went and worked for Volusia County Schools for almost 3 decades. and left there in 2020, and now kind of putting my planning skills to work in a number of different ways, including participating here with ECHO, which I enjoy a lot, and a couple other different activities. So it's good to be here with you.
Okay, David?
David Romeo from Ormond Beach, on the board at the City of Ormond for Quality of Life and also the Budgetary Board. A little longer, I guess. But and then I also work for a company over in Daytona Beach, Miller Lehman. We're a water purification company, and I focus a lot on the wastewater markets and the drinking water markets, and also the green structures where you're building a building to make it environmentally LEED certified to be a green building. So I focus a lot on that, and I'm really enjoying the ECHO board.
Great. I did not know that about you, David, that that's what you did. And so for purposes also of everybody on both boards, why don't we have the attorneys and the staff introduce themselves so everybody knows who's sitting at the dais here.
My name is Chris Ryan. I'm Assistant County Attorney representing the Historic Preservation Commission.
Thank you.
I'm Russ Brown. I'm also an attorney, and I represent ECHO.
Okay.
I'm Kendra Hively. I think I met y'all last May when I first brought this up to you, and I manage the ECHO program.
Okay.
My name is Ben Walter. I'm the new county staff liaison for the Historic Preservation Board. It's nice to meet you all.
Okay. Mr. Burberall, do you want to say anything? No.
Brad Burbaugh.
Okay. He's been quiet today. I'm a little nervous about that. Okay, so Zach, we decided under new business, staff is going to make presentations, and then we can do committee board discussion after they're made their presentation. Okay?
Yes.
Okay, so first I just wanted to discuss the goals of the meeting. We came to y'all last May. ECHO would really like to see more historic projects be brought to the program. And we thought it would be a good idea to have stakeholders come and address their concerns, their needs, how we can help them be eligible for ECHO. So here we are. We have a couple presenters today. We have some that may not have a presentation but may want to speak on the historic, how we can help them. So we'll address that as we, after the two we hear. Okay. So with that being said, we know there's challenges, and a lot of them have to do with the funding. So we'll get through that as we move on. After we give our presentation, we'll move to the other presenters, and then you will have time to give your comments or discussion. No actions will be taken today from either committee on this topic. So.
But there will be follow-up for later, for next year.
Yes. So
ideas that come out of this will.
Yes. Okay. So what staff will do, ECHO staff will do, is we will summarize the environmental comments from our meeting we had back in July. We'll summarize the comments from this meeting along with our needs survey we're going to do next month, and bring back to you in January so you can maybe learn something from that to develop your work plan for next year.
Okay, great.
So first, I just wanted to make sure you knew the definition as ECHO defines historic in the guidebook. I'm not going to read this word for word, but it's basically a historic structure 50 years or older. It's building or facility, so you can read that there. So the historic type, I did this pie chart for you. I wanted you to see what types of projects we have already funded. So out of the 40, we've funded 47 historic projects so far. 6 have been rescinded. Of the 41 that are completed, 61% are restoration, 12% are acquisition, and 27% are stabilization. So for the historic board, so you understand how ECHO works, the applicant must be a nonprofit, a municipality, or a Volusia County government. They have to have a 1-to-1 match, and they have to provide public access to the building, structure, project, whatever it is they have. So it can be for restoration, acquisition, and construction. So that's how we're working to try to get more into those categories. So some of the challenges staff has heard is public access, that you can only if it only provides public access to the exterior of a building, that it's not eligible for ECHO. So that's one of the challenges. Funding is a challenge to complete the restoration. A lot of organizations think they can get this funding or donations, and come to find out that's why we've had most of ours, the 6 rescinded, is due to funding. So, and then additionally is long-term maintenance. So once they get the project done, there's maintenance to the facilities or projects. ECHO does not fund operations or maintenance, so that's another concern also. So I just wanted to provide a few projects that we have funded that have been successful with ECHO. The Denton Sugar Mill. This project was a stabilization for the ruins. The Underhill House, this sits at the Pioneer Art Settlement. This grant was for the acquisition of this house, and they moved it there to the Pioneer Art Settlement. The Meyer Davis House, the total investment for that was $446,000, and they restored this property. And all of these projects I'm showing you are accessible to the public. They've been good projects for ECHO. Just wanted to make sure we saw some good out of the historic that we are getting done. So the Mary McLeod Bethune House restoration. And then the clock tower in Daytona. So now I'm going to have Ben come up and do a portion for the historic side and give some information on that.
Good afternoon. So I just want to give a little history of the Historic Preservation Board and kind of outline their scope for the conversation and what might be available to work together. This comes from the Historic Preservation Board is a consequence of a Congress passed in 1966, the National Historic Preservation Act. In that act, the goal was, and with subsequent amendments, was to establish a program to identify, evaluate, and protect historic and prehistoric resources. It also formalized a role for a decentralized historic preservation partnership, which is, at the end result you see is the Historic Preservation Board. The program is called a Certified Local Government Program. Volusia County was certified in July of 2009, and one of the requirements of a certified local government is that they have a Historic Preservation Review Commission, which is our historic preservation. Our members are appointed by County Council and are tasked with certifying properties through a certificate of designation as historically significant in the unincorporated area of the county. That designation allows for protection of the property, requiring certificates of appropriateness for any alterations to the exterior. It does not include interior alterations. Also for demolitions, new construction in a historic district, and also a certificate of excavation for any earth altering work that's going to happen in an archaeologically sensitive area. They're also tasked with reviewing and making recommendations to the State National Register Review Board. The certified local government reviews the application and can submit it to them with approval, denial, or with recommendations. The board also advises county councils on all matters related to historic preservation policy, including the use, management, and maintenance of county-owned historic resources. And this isn't an exhaustive list, but one other I wanted to mention is that they're tasked with educating the public on the benefits of historic preservation and the laws and policies that are in effect for those preservations and restoration. So the county has 3 historic districts. The Cassadaga Historic District is east of DeLand, and these historic districts, there are contributing properties and non-contributing properties. If a contributing property came in for restoration or demolition, the board would need to issue a certificate of appropriateness for that. In addition to the districts, we also have individually designated properties, and it's the same story there. If they want to do an exterior alteration, a demolition, or an addition, they'll have to have a certificate of appropriateness issued by the board. Our other 2 districts in unincorporated Volusia County is the Enterprise Historic District in the southern end of the county, and the Spring Garden Ranch Historic District kind of between DeLeon Springs and here. Our So for the purposes of our discussion today, I just wanted to point out that the Volusia County Comprehensive Plan really encourages this shared work together. There's 2 policies that encourage work with ECHO program to fund historic properties, including restoration, management, and operation. And I'll turn it back to Kendra.
So the first presenter is going to be for DeLand Historic Trust, and Susie Peace is here. I believe she's going to have a short video clip, and then after that, she'll have some information.
We're going to have the video clip first, but I just wanted to say I'm glad to be here. It's good to see all of you. I didn't know the Historic Preservation Board was going to be here, but please enjoy the video, and then I'll talk on the same subject.
Piece of history making its return. A World War II era tugboat created in DeLand will soon be back in Volusia County. Quite the story here. The boat was just brought back to the U.S. from Europe.
The project more than a year in the making. News 6's Molly Reed shows us how leaders are preparing this piece of the past for its future.
DeLand City Commission started their conversations this morning about where the tugboat could go now that it's back in the U.S. Right now, their hope is to try to put it in a park near the river, but first it's going to be a matter of getting it to DeLand.
It's a completely unknown part of American World War II history. The tug that's coming back is the only one to ever return home out of the 550 U.S. Army World War II ST tugboats.
And its name is the ST Tiger, one of 29 of those tugboats built in a factory on Lake Beersford in DeLand. Dan Friend, president of the DeLand Historic Trust, says it was likely used in Normandy.
To build on the docks off of the French coast, to recover bodies. I mean, there were so many things. The tugs were essential.
Friend started research on the tugboats decades ago, even creating a website about them. About a year ago, he got a call from a couple in Sweden. They had the Tiger and would give it to him, but he had to pay for transport. The group started raising money. Then what he calls an anonymous angel came along.
Who said, I will give you $200,000 to bring the boat home to Jacksonville. And after that, you're on your own.
On July 10th, it was brought back to the U.S. Right now, it's being held outside of Jacksonville. Friend and the other volunteers working on it will know next week if it can come down by itself.
We're going to bring her home on our own power. We're 90% certain. It's a diesel. And those old diesels, after 20 years, they crank right up.
How soon it gets to DeLand also depends on funding. The DeLand Historic Trust is fundraising again for paint, transportation, and monument costs. But Friend says one way or another, the Tiger is coming home.
It goes past the city of DeLand. This is the only U.S. Army ST tugboat to ever come back to America, to the place where it was built. The only one. That's extraordinary.
In DeLand, Volusia County, I'm Molly Reed getting results, News 6.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm real exciting. I want to say good afternoon formally to the Volusia Echo Advisory Committee and Chair Northey and Vice Chair Pendergast. And a lot of you I've talked to before. I know Larry pretty well, and Zach. I know Zach and Pat. My name is Susie Peace, and I am representing the Historic Trust, DeLand Historic Trust today. Our president, Dan Friend, who you just saw on the video clip, he is actually talking with the DeLand the DeLand Rotary Club right now as I'm speaking about this subject. The subject is the restoration, stabilization, and future exhibit of our historic Army war tug ST-479 Tiger. It was built in 1944 for service in World War II, 78 years ago, so it qualifies for the 50-year cutoff there, on the shores of Lake Beersford, the St. Johns River in Volusia County. Through Dan's consummate research and great effort, it has been brought back to Florida and is currently moored in Green Cove Springs, which is near the nearest city would be St. Augustine. Volusia County has always cared for its veterans, and this is a great opportunity to bring home a unique piece of our history and heritage. We plan to apply for an ECHO grant in the historic H category during your 2023 or 2024 cycle. However, looking at the public access and eligibility requirements in the ECHO guidebook, we see a need for a possible language change, and Kender's just already mentioned that about whether you view something from the exterior or the interior, and that we just need flexibility on that requirement. We consider the tiger a significant historic artifact, and therefore our future proposition would involve bringing the tiger on shore in a permanent, stabilized exhibit. The boat would be placed on a concrete pad or a cradle, and viewing would be via a handicap ramp, stairs, and platform deck. But the interior of the tiger itself would remain inaccessible due to hazards and to toxicity. We do want to include an educational mural and memorial to the 44 Volusia County veterans who died in World War II. Our nonprofit organization wishes to request the following proposed language changes to the ECHO guidelines. One being under public access on page 6, add language that provides an exemption to the requirement of projects being ineligible that have access only to the exterior. And the exemption would be for significant historic structure or artifact. Under definitions on page 23, historic and heritage project definition, quote, means a site, building, or facility, unquote. Please consider adding or significant historic artifact to the existing sentence language. And when I think about the Dunlawton Sugar Mill exhibit, I think of a significant historic artifact.
Susie, do you have copies of that for us?
I can email you copies.
Okay. And you have a copy? Okay.
Thank you very much.
And please include
Appreciate
the
it.
Historic Preservation Board with those recommendations, because I'm going to ask them about them. Okay. Thank you, Susie.
I'll have Susie send it to me, and I'll make sure everyone gets it.
Thank
So, the next presenter is Stephanie Doster. She's with Volusia County Schools.
Good afternoon, guys. Thanks for having us. We're really excited to have this opportunity to express our interest in eligibility for historic preservation partnership with ECHO. Volusia County Schools, we take a lot of pride in our facilities. Schools are the center of communities, and they're highly recognizable. So we take a lot of pride in making sure that they are well displayed. With that, a lot of our funding is focused on student stations and providing that facility for students to have a healthy place to come and learn. And a lot of times that means we don't have a lot of money left over for things like historic preservation until it becomes an emergency. We have 3 types of funding for our construction projects. We have our sales tax, which sales tax is already pre-established what we can use that funding for, as the one we currently have was established in 2013. So that funding is in place for specific projects. We also have our local funding, which is what is our primary capital project funding, minor projects, major projects, and maintenance. And then we have our impact fees, which is only dedicated to increasing permanent student capacity at our schools. So that leaves us very little room for those maintenance and preservation projects that we would really like to be able to partner in funding. I've got a few examples of just properties that we have that are historic in nature. There we go. So these are the things I've kind of already gone over, our funding and how important it is for schools to be recognizable in communities and the significance of those historic structures. They really do make an impact on the community culture and the connection of the past. Port Orange Elementary School is one school that we currently have a lot of need for some restoration. This is a beautiful school. Obviously, this picture doesn't show the full scope of the curb appeal, but this school definitely needs some attention. The mortar needs to be pulled out and restored, and now we're seeing interior issues due to that facade rehab that has been much needed. So this is actually turned into an emergency project that was not pre-funded, that we are searching for funding for to get this underway, so that we can keep this school open. When projects like this go unattended to, it causes interior unwell buildings that students just cannot inhabit. So our goal is to not have that become an issue. Orange City Elementary is another beautiful school that we have. I believe it is within the historic district, the local historic district within Orange City. You can see here this school has already had some significant facade changes. It was brick, now it has a stucco overlay. This one, we are working on master planning this school, and this building is of particular interest because the community would like for it to stay in place and to be continued to be used. It's just unfortunate that it needs a significant amount of restoration, and we will not be able to continue to have students in this building without a new roof and just some of the restoration that's needed on the exterior to ensure that the interior stays well. So at this time, we're looking at opportunities to, we're looking for opportunities for this school or this building itself to be preserved. We just haven't come up with a plan yet because of the significant amount of money that it takes. And one thing we don't want is for this building just to sit and lay dormant because we cannot use it, and then we just build around it. They're beautiful contributors to this community, and the city has expressed their interest in having this building stay. So we would like to try and make that happen. One unfortunate facility that just kind of was not, due to the extensive rehabilitation that was needed, we just did not have the funding available to make this feasible. Like I said, when you have significant amounts of money that need to go into a building, you want to put that money where it benefits your students first, and then we look at, everything else that's needed. And with Bonner Elementary School, this school needed significant rehabilitation, and we just did not have the means for that. This school was sold. It is on a historic registry, so it still does have that designation. It was sold to a charter school where we thought they may have more opportunities for funding to help preserve this building. So it was in the best interest of the building and the district to sell that at a significantly reduced price so that it could continue to get care. Ormond Beach Elementary School.
How many more do we have to go through? Just
this is it.
Oh,
this is our last slide. This is just a list of schools, facilities that Volusia County has that are older, in that historic range, and that will need future care and existing care that we're hoping we could become eligible to partner with ECHO.
Can I just ask about, I'm looking at this list, Enterprise Elementary, that's not your building anymore, that's a museum across the street.
This was just included as just a beautiful historic building that no longer,
Oh, I see.
it was relocated.
Okay, all right. What else you got?
That's it.
That's it?
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. And we'll go back to staff.
So that's all of the presentations we've received. There's quite a few people here, so I don't know if there's anyone more that's...
Is there anybody here that is wanting to make comment on this? If you need to do that, fill out a slip and turn that in, or wave and we'll acknowledge you? Okay. All right, I'm not seeing any.
Nope, doesn't
oh,
look like it,
Well, come forward, give us your name and address and what you're representing, and then we'll have you fill out a public participation slip, okay?
You folks provide, which is.
Okay, give me your name and address.
I'm Pat Justin. I'm with the Deltona Women's Club.
Okay.
I'm the current president. I'm accompanied today by the immediate past president, Josephine Carelli. Our building has been there over 50 years in Deltona, probably one of the first buildings other than a residence. And of course, like all the other businesses, COVID hit us and depleted all of whatever money we had to maintain the building. We weren't able to rent it. Thousands of celebrations have been held at our building over the years, and for 2 years we couldn't do any of that. So now our fascia and soffit is deteriorating, crumbling, falling off, and we have no funds to I don't want to say repair.
Restore.
Thank you, Pat. Restore. And we didn't know where else to reach out. I've sent paperwork into the state to see if we could be declared
But
a
you're
historic
not declared a
site.
historic
I haven't
building
heard.
yet.
I haven't heard from them yet. So it's a couple of months. So I think I've had enough time. I'm going to reach them now. But I just didn't know if there was maybe somewhere else other than a grant, if we don't qualify, that the county could help us. The city will not help us, and there's no designation from them to make us a historic site. I looked into that too. So that's what I just wanted to introduce myself. And so if anybody has any ideas for us, we're in desperate need.
Okay.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Okay. Is that it for?
Yes,
staff
that's it. So I'll get her
presentation?
information and reach back
Great.
out to her with any avenues she can take. So
Okay.
now we can turn it over to the committees if there's
Right.
any discussion.
I'm going to defer to Zach because we asked them to meet with us and want to hear their issues or their concerns or their thoughts on what they heard as far as changes in language, changes in structures. So, Mr. Zacharias.
Yeah, so I just want to comment on the tugboat. So I know, sometimes historic structures and other buildings, they can't take 100,000 people a year going into them. So let me just give you an example. At the Museum of Arts and Sciences, we have the Hiawatha train from the 1940s. It's a streamlined train that Chapman Root had purchased and just restored for the love of Americana. He restored it. He was a train collector. And yes, the gallery is open to the public. And we built a platform that you can look into the train and see the interior, but you cannot go into the train. They'll open it once literally have to get permission from the Roots if we want to open it up for something very special. But it just can't take 100,000 people, because we get about 100,000 visitors a year, 100,000 people who's going to that train in and out in a year. So I do kind of like that exception to the change on that. And that is quite an artifact that really is a national monument. And then, of course, there isn't a whole lot of historic preservation that's gone on in Deltona. And so that's a very interesting, comment from the public. I really appreciate that because, these resources are very valuable to them. And once they're gone forever. So, and I think people 50 years from now and even 75 years from now will look back and say, thank God those people preserved that and saved that. So that's just one quick comment I want to make. Go ahead. Brian?
I agree on the proposed changes to the language for accessibility because as long as everyone's treated the same for ADA, then you're fine. So if able-bodied people can't go in, then I think it's fine to have that type of access. It sounds like the language is written primarily for structures, assuming it was going to be a structure and people would be allowed in a building. But I think that's a good change to the language, including artifacts and access.
I would also agree on language change to allow consideration, such as Ms. Peace suggested. Another example that's kind of percolating right now and is a very complex issue is the World War II watchtower in Ormond by the Sea. I was past there yesterday, took some photos. In essence, the dune it was sitting on is gone. It is still standing. It needs restoration. The Historical Society was involved in 2004 in convincing the previous owner of the property to restore it, which they did, but now we're, 20 or going on 20 more years of wear and tear on it. It's complex because it's on private property, and there is now a homeowners association involved. So I don't know that it would ever qualify for ECHO, but whatever happens to it, you're never going to be able to go inside of it because it's up there. It would not be safe. It's too small for people to be going through it and so forth. But it's a significant piece of Volusia County and veterans and military history that I don't think we want to see be lost. It may at some point have to be moved.
Had it
but
received ECHO funds in the first time around? That seems like there was
for the historic, for the watchtower?
Yeah.
No.
It's never received ECHO.
No. The developer actually spent $100,000 renovating the facility at that, or the watchtower at that point in time. But no.
I concur with those suggestions for the wording changes, and also with respect to our board, I'm interested in how we could seek certificates of designation for items like the tugboat and also that historic structure in Deltona, so that both our boards could further act towards our preservation.
Yes.
And not to forget about the schools. I saw the hefty price tags for those projects, and is it divided up into kind of bite-sized chunks with the priority being keeping the water out? So is there a project just for roof repairs, window repairs, that you could start with the worst and then work toward the interior, but keeping the water out is the top priority?
Typically, yes. We start with those priority structural needs, keeping the water out, sealing up the outside so that we can then go in and do the wall restoration on the inside, the window repairs on the inside. So depending on our funding, we do it in the chunks where we have the most available and where it's most needed. It's a lot with these older buildings. And we've done quite a few restorations already. We've got the Brewster Center in DeLand, which we just finished an emergency, very similar to what we need to do at Port Orange Elementary, where we removed all of the mortar and replaced it to then do the interior restorations. And we currently use that as a administrative office. It's a historic school downtown DeLand, and now it houses over 150 of our employees. But it still needs significant repairs as well. We started with that, sealing the exterior so that we can get the rest of it under control and then get that interior air quality back to an acceptable level for people to stay in there.
Oh, that's good. In the school board budget, is there a separate category for historic preservation, or are you competing with all the other maintenance repair projects throughout the county?
Yeah, there is no budget for historic restoration, rehabilitation. We work it in where we find the need, and typically that need happens once it's at an emergency state, because it's not worked in ahead of time. There's just that money is pre-allocated, and
it's too bad you have to wait until it's a crisis,
right?
And somebody has to do something.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I just want to say, thank you for your presentation. And these historic structures are really important. Now, why are they important? Because they attract people. Why do they attract people? Because they're beautiful. Because beauty matters. People come down to downtown DeLand because they're attracted to the beauty of the historic structure. Same with Beach Street and all these other places. You don't go flying out to Houston to go see the suburbs of Houston, do you? Because modern architecture is not that beautiful, is it? But these historic structures are. And so that's why I think, this is really important that, especially these schools, they're very beautiful. You can tell a historic school from a modern school, no problem. Because there's a huge discrepancy in the beauty of those structures. I hate to say it, you know what I mean? So the beauty matters in these historic structures because I think we've kind of gotten away from beauty a lot. Just drive down any street and look at modern architecture, and then you'll see why people are so driven to these historic places.
Did you have in mind that building on I-4 there by Altamont Springs?
Now that one should be, just because of the memes, it should be historic.
I'd like to ask the ECHO board if they have any reaction to the presentations, and the Historic Preservation Board listen to those, and maybe we can see if there's other things that we need to be, any reactions? Stacy?
Yes, thanks. I'll just share that I do catering on the side, and I've worked at your museum, had wonderful weddings around that train, and I can see definitely the point that it's still open and available to all, and still quite the historic event to see. Thanks.
Yeah, I just wanted to provide a little clarification for the Historic Preservation Board. I specifically asked for the school district to come to make a presentation because the school district is not eligible to apply for any ECHO grants. And I do have a personal concern about the historic structures at not only at the school district, but there are several schools that are functioning in private ownership now. Samsula Elementary, Bonner Elementary, and they are both examples of what I consider to be threatened and an endangered historic structure. And those of you who are in DeLand may know Boston Avenue. And I think Boston Avenue is a great example of what happens when monies are not made available for historic restoration. I did not know that the school district was not eligible until I tried to find monies for Boston Avenue. And that was when I learned that the school district was not eligible. But I personally think that public education and having children and their families travel in and out of historic schools is a high priority and should be something that we as a community care about. And I do agree with you, Mr. Zacharias, that the fabric of a neighborhood that is surrounded by a historic school is very different than some of our newer, more suburban schools, and that there is something to be said for keeping that architecture, let alone ensuring the activity of public education continues. So I appreciate the school district staff coming forward, and I appreciate your comments.
David, you have anything you want to add?
I just would ask the staff to look into that wording. I would like to see how we could, look at that and look at restructuring it for the tugboat or other situations, but just how it would be reworded and bring it back to us and go from there. I would agree. I think we'd all agree maybe to look at that.
Mr. Patterson, any comment? Any comment, Mr. Patterson? Pat?
I have some deep concerns about all of it.
Okay.
Deep concerns and how the amount of money that's going to be looking. And if we start making changes, we might open doors that we don't want to go through by changing rules for some and not for others. I think there might be some problems. For financial end of it is huge.
Hendrick?
Of course, I'll have a comment. As an architect, I've always been very disappointed that more historic projects don't come before the ECHO board. And we don't have that many historic structures in Volusia County, just because it wasn't a very large county 50 years ago or 100 years ago. So I'm always in support of historic buildings. And in fact, that's how I even discovered ECHO, was when we tried to restore the Chamber of Commerce building in New Smyrna Beach, which was a 1934 WPA project. And we were successful in getting a grant, and then the county council changed the rules. But at least we got the grant for the Chamber of Commerce building through here. So that's a very important piece of history that we've been able to restore and move forward with. And the school buildings, I totally agree. I mean, children remember the environment they're in at that age. I can tell you exactly what the schools I went to looked like. Unfortunately, they were not beautiful buildings, but I remember them. So I think that it's very important for students to be in a meaningful, beautiful environment. So, and unfortunately, new schools don't necessarily look like old ones, but that's really okay. We have old buildings that we should try to preserve. And I understand, I've been on this board a long time, and I understand, that if you need to be a not-for-profit and blah, 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 there's a lot of restrictions. And, but I wish that the community would bring more things to us that we could work with.
I'll just add, I share some of Mr. Patterson's concerns about rewriting language, although I appreciate language that allows people to view historic structures, because not every historic structure, exactly, we cannot go into every historic structure. That doesn't mean they shouldn't be honored. I'm very concerned when you tell me that Deltona will not address the needs of the women's club. That means that any ECHO award is based on a contributing match, which I don't know what the resources are of the women's club, but the fact that the city would not be interested is a lobbying effort that you all are going to have to take on. Right. But there are requirements for ECHO as far as identifying it as a historic building, and the city isn't willing to do that. I think that we're probably not in a good place here to add any value to your efforts. I would ask about, the school board has a sales tax, and I'm curious why you all would not set aside dollars for restoration and rehabilitation of those historic schools, and why they would be just mixed in with everything else. Do you have a 5-year plan? Most governments have a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan, 20-year plan. And we do, Volusia County does on roads, I know, and also other structures they want to build.
Can I help with that response?
Sure, absolutely. We do have a 5-year work plan that we create annually. And when needs are presented, we try to work that into that 5-year work plan. But the needs are so great throughout our district.
But you have a sales tax. You have a countywide sales tax that you have.
Yeah, but I think part of the issue is priorities and demands. And then secondly, what we have evolved into just as a society, and it's been mentioned already, is we focus on cost, and it's measured at the school district cost per student station. And the problem we have with these historic structures is either they're not being used for student stations, or there are very few student stations in them because they're historic and they're small. And so when we're looking at cost per student station and trying to benefit the highest number of students as possible, these properties fall to the bottom.
Are they listed on the historic preservation? Do they have historic preservation are on the register?
Many of them do.
Many of them do.
Yeah. And I mean, I'd be
But
willing
to do that wouldn't. Here's my concern. I'm gonna be really frank. My concern is you have a sales tax, and you're not setting any, and you have historic buildings, and you're not setting aside anything that was specific to historic buildings that you still want to use. You're treating them as a regular school site, and it seems to me that the school board, because this would be a school board issue for them to approve coming to Echo if it was opened up, that they would want to provide some value as to why they think, I mean, historic preservation is not cheap. And if you're going to use those buildings.
And we are continuing. And I mean, this is definitely, we would definitely bring that to our school board and express that need to continue the preservation. It's just, when you look at the dollars for new construction versus historic preservation and student stations and buildings that you can build a new school for a fraction of the price of restoration and addition like Bonner, it outweighs the need because you're focusing on the student. Now, if we had a priority and we took that to the board and said, we currently use, say, Port Orange Elementary, which is why this is turned into an emergency project.
Was what, 12 million?
That one was more like 2 million.
2 million,
yeah.
Okay. There was one that was 12 million.
That I think was Bonner, which we ended up selling.
Sold.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just because we couldn't justify that cost.
Right.
But with Port Orange Elementary, that school is in full swing right now, and we're finding those emergency funds to remedy the problem. And when it comes up, we address it. It's just that funding then has to be taken from another project or multiple projects to be prioritized.
Can I ask the staff something? If a site was purchased by a not-for-profit and taken out of the school system, is that eligible? Come to Echo.
I would say yes. They would have to be public. I mean, there would have to be public use. There's ballot language we still have to make sure we're following. It has to be echo-related activity and public use.
Right.
We'd have to stay within that.
I want to know, because what I'm hearing is different than what we heard at a previous meeting. If a charter school comes forward, the primary use is public education. Are they eligible?
There's also a statement in the guidebook. It's on page 6. It states that grab it.
So they're owned by
they're not eligible, in other words.
Right, not if
because
it's
of the
used
use.
for curriculum. Correct, it's because of the use.
But Enterprise Elementary, which is now a museum, is eligible.
Correct, because it's an echo-related use.
Because of an echo-related
yes.
use. Okay.
And there's public access.
Yeah.
Whereas if there's curriculum or students, the access is restricted to students and faculty.
Is the same as it is in, I believe, because my too old. My granddaughter went to a charter school, and the access was very difficult to do it, although there were events that there was access to.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Is there anything you guys? Hi.
Hi, I'm back. Back to the language about the tugboat. I'd really like to see this go through, and I think it could be tweaked so it's not broad enough that it could be applied to buildings. If it was for the health and safety of visitors and impact on the resource, and specifically used for an artifact, like Zach said, then I think that would work, and I'd really like to see that happen. As far as historic properties, the reality is not everything can be saved. We went through as the locals called it up around De Leon Springs. We got to save the packing house, the Strawn packing house. Well, everything can't be saved. It's a National Register site. It's all been documented, photographed, and sometimes you just got to let it go. The owner would come wanting to do some demolition work, and the poor guy, the board was ready to run them out of town. You know, how dare you want to buy this property and then demolish some of the buildings? But that's just the reality of it. You know, maybe the county needs to sell one of these schools and then use the money to, and I know it's government and you can't move money around in a way that always makes sense. I worked for the state for many years, so I can say that. But maybe the money needs to go into a fund for historic preservation, and look at which of these schools are National Register eligible, and I think that would help carry some weight. And if you did have to sell one, have some requirements about, and this would go through either us or if it's a local, a city historic preservation board, look at requirements as far as keeping the historic fabric and the appearance of the building. So
Didn't the Strawn finally burn down? Is that still there?
Pieces of it are still there. The office burned.
Okay.
The main factory processing part of it, that's all collapsing. It's owned by the guy who owns Hey Baby, and he parks semi-trailers there now.
Zach, do you all have a budget that you allocate for people come before you and ask for dollars, correct?
They usually don't ask for money. They're usually asking for a certificate of appropriateness or demolition or something in that matter.
Oh, okay.
So we don't
So
really
you
have
don't
funds to
fund,
give out.
you don't fund projects at all?
Just an approval
Just
board, basically.
approval.
Mhm.
Do you do historic preservation, like the registry that I'm sorry that they left, but.
That would not really fall under us.
Us, okay.
Yeah, because that's out of our jurisdiction as well, because they're taking
Okay,
their own
because
city.
they
So
have their own city, so it would be a city requirement.
most likely,
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And I do want to say too that I'm sure that the lawyers, my wife being a lawyer as well, can work out language where maybe this can be done on a case by case basis, where you have something like a World War II tower or an incredible artifact that is not really safe for somebody to go into, but it can be probably worked out where this can be a case by case basis and not some type of blanket thing where next thing you know you got everybody charging in the door for this and that. So.
Okay. So could I ask the staff to remind us on a historic stabilization grant, because those are not tied to an annual cycle.
Correct.
They are
Emergency stabilization. Mhm.
And what constitutes an emergency stabilization?
Anything that the structure would be destroyed because of it if we didn't jump in and help fund the stabilization of it. If it's going to collapse, something of that nature.
Okay.
The emergency program still has to follow ECHO guidelines, though.
Okay.
It just is out. The only difference is outside of the normal ECHO cycle.
There were two that I believe were ECHO funded. One was the DeBerry Hall roof, because they had to come to us for recommendation, and then the band shell, and we approved it, but we chastised both of them for not catching it when it was a minor roof leak, waiting until it was a crisis, and it was going to cost a couple $100,000 before it could be repaired.
I have that concern. I understand exactly what you're saying. Sarah Lee, I think you wanted to make a remark?
Yeah, and it does seem that we have a little bit of precedence on, just some monuments. Thinking about the presentation, the clock tower, that's not something we access, we view it.
We view it. Mary McLeod Bethune statue, we view.
And
we contributed to
so
that.
there's some similarity there with the issues pertinent to the tugboat. So, yeah, I'd like to support that as well.
And also, too, you think about the impact on tourism that tugboat, if it comes to fruition, it happens, especially for West Volusia and really the entire county. I'm not really sure we can go and see a historic boat anywhere else. Maybe, I don't know. I know in Mobile you can go on to the
Texas.
Yeah, there are not many places where you can go and see a historic World War II boat that you can see in its originality. In Florida, I don't know of one. I know you go to Charleston to see one, and you can go to Mobile. You practically have to leave the state. So I see that as a huge tourist opportunity for the county, and especially West Volusia as well.
So does staff have enough information to digest what the two boards have talked about?
Yes, we do. I think we have a good basis we can bring back to you.
Bring back to us with some recommendations, and then we can take them up, and of course, the county council is the ultimate
Yes,
with it.
yes.
So.
Mhm.
Stacy?
Can I just ask one last question about the school?
Sure.
I'm just curious if the school board has been approached with the ability to purchase any of those historic buildings in the last, say, 5 years or 10 years.
Good question.
I guess the question is an outside source contacted the school board to purchase those historic buildings?
For others to purchase the buildings from us?
Yeah.
Not to my knowledge, we have not been approached. Other than Bonner Elementary, which was the charter school that was housed in it at the time.
And Boston Avenue.
And Boston Avenue, which is also a charter school. And it was sold at a significant discount. I mean, enough so that it would make it feasible for them to put in and apply for getting monies to work on the building.
But it got them off of your books as a you didn't have to you no longer had to be concerned about restoration
Correct.
and rehabilitation.
And then moving forward, we have actually, for even Orange City Elementary, that first building, we've approached others to purchase it so that they could put the funds into it or be eligible for other funding for the buildings. We just haven't had much interest in it.
Thank you. I'm just really curious to see the motion. Thank you.
Kendra, would you, for everybody's refreshment, talk about the grant amounts? Because we have exceptional grant.
Yes, so the
we have
exceptional
historic
grant.
stabilization grant, we have regular.
Yes, so the max request an organization can make is $2.5 million for an exceptional grant. The standard grant is $600,000.
And that's a one-to-one match, correct?
But all of it is one-to-one match, yes. The cap of a lifetime for any project facility is $3.1 million. So if they get the 2.5, they can come back and ask for 600,000, or do multiple standard if they want to phase a project to get to that 3.1 million.
And the stabilization?
It's the same.
Okay,
Yes.
there's no amount.
No, yeah, it follows the same program.
Okay.
It's not all one-to-one anymore, right?
It is one-to-one. Nonprofits, the only difference is the nonprofits, depending on their size.
Right.
It's still one-to-one, but the cash match they are required to bring varies depending on the size of the organization.
Right. Okay.
Okay, there's no other business between the board and the committee? Yes?
I have one more thing, and this is something that kind of bugs me. How much does it cost to make those giant bronze plaques when you finish a project? And does the Echo side of that pay for the whole thing, or is that a one-to-one match with paying for the giant plaque?
The grantee pays for that, and it cannot be included in match, and Echo does not pay for it.
Oh, that's even worse. No, that makes me feel worse.
Yeah.
This is coming out of the nonprofit.
Oh, I
pocketbook.
see, I understand. Okay, Zach, the rest is your meeting if you're ready to talk about anything you need to talk about, or if you wanted to be dismissed or recessed. We'll go into recess when you're finished with your business, if you have any.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there any further business that we have? I don't really see anything on the agenda.
No, sir. We'll handle the minutes at the next meeting, and our next meeting will be organizational, getting ready, a work plan, and that. So we'll cover a lot of ground in January. January 24th. Yes, ma'am. I'll be sending more information soon regarding that.
All right, so then in that case, the Historic Preservation Board is finished with its business, and if there's any other comments, we'll take that. Otherwise, going once, twice, 3 times, we will adjourn.
Well, and we thank you for coming out and meeting with us so that if you have any other ideas that come forward, how we can bump up those numbers, please share them with us, okay? Okay, thank you. We will be in recess for 10 minutes, correct? 10 minutes. Thank you. think. I hope, anyway.
No.
Okay, I'm calling the Echo Board back into session. Thank you very much. We're into our old business. Kendra, do you want to introduce our the Creative Arts Cafe scope change request presentation?
Yes. So if you recall, last meeting we had in July, the City of Lake Helen was here requesting a scope change. The committee voted or made a motion and asked them to come back to this meeting with a new scope, and they are here today. Just a reminder, they were the ECHO funding for that project was $156,626, and the restrictive covenants is until 2044. And Lee Evett is here with the City of Lake Helen.
Okay, Mr. Evett.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members. I don't know if it's safe to say, do you remember me or not? Almost hope sometimes you, in this case, you don't remember. But anyway, we were here on the 14th, and we received a good deal of constructive criticism of our scope change proposal. We have done since that time a considerable amount of work to revitalize our scope to be in conformance with what we received to be the essential goals of this committee. So we've made a very short presentation, 4 slides of substance, not including the title. And we have that for you today. And we have 3 separate speakers on 4 slides, each talking about an essential part of the new plan. And with that, Chairman, I'll just turn it over to the first speaker, who's the mayor of Lake
Okay,
Helen.
so that would be, I'm looking for the sheet here, Cameron.
Cameron,
Mayor
correct.
Lane. I'm sorry, Mayor Lane.
I have admonished everyone to try and keep it brief. I'll try as well to keep it brief. Could we go to the next slide? Oh, I have to click that. Tell me what to click. I'm almost there. Oh.
There we go.
Thank you very much for meeting with us here today. We do want to be an active and vibrant participant in this ECHO process. I think the goals and no, not the goals, but the value system of Lake Helen, in preparing for this, I was struck by how closely our value systems are aligned with your group. And we'll go through that briefly. The environmental, right in the Cultural Arts Center, we do not have anything environmental within the building. We do have outside, we have a native plant garden. And right now, the current gym group is investing about $30,000 to $40,000 into that exterior area, which includes a native plant garden. We are also located there in our Blake Park, which, again, going back to the community, for 100 years, this community has fostered the plants there in Blake Park. We have 100-year-old plus cedar trees and longleaf pines, and we have made it a point to maintain these for generations, many generations. This city's values are very closely aligned with the ECHO boards. So that's, in the effort to keep it brief, that's all the environmental part, is that native plant garden, which we do maintain outside the Cultural Arts Center in the patio area there. And next will be...
Hey, my name is Buddy Collins. Just for a brief introduction, I am representing the GEMS group that is helping the city with this building and trying to get it back on track with the ECHO vision. Something that my grandfather, Bill Hester, who's been heavily involved in Volusia County for a long time, has taught me is that you make the city, county, state where you grow up what you want your family to be exposed to. And we have 2 young children. That's what's most important to us. And that's the biggest impact that we see having here, which matches up, like the mayor said, greatly with what the ECHO vision is. So for cultural, what we're doing with the building right now is we have a Lake Helen Pride talent show that we're planning to have there. We have a few other things listed on these bullet points. We have a book signing with a local Lake Helen author. We also we're going to have a monthly featured artist in a gallery that we have set up. And Teresa, who's going to speak next, has done a really great job of updating what we have for museum space. And I'm really excited to have you guys there if it's possible sometime to show you the improvements that we've made. Like the mayor was saying, the outdoor patio, gem garden, we're calling it, it's going to be close to $100,000 that the group, citizens of Lake Helen, are putting into it to help kind of hit all these benchmarks that Echo set forward. And that being said, keep it short. Teresa will be next.
Hello, my name is Teresa Lane, and I am here representing the Lake Helen Historic Society and our newly renovated museum extension into the CAC, and basically I rejuvenated, the Historic Society with their support, rejuvenated the museum that once stood there. We have pulled items from our city museum, which I'm not sure if anybody is still on the board, but our city hall is our old.
It's an old school.
It's an old school, so it's pretty interesting that this meeting came after that meeting. That was interesting to listen to. So yes, our school was, I believe, renovated by one of your grants, and we had a museum in there as well, and we still do. And I just went through with the Historic Society's support, and we have not renovated, but I rejuvenated so you can walk through and it makes more sense. So since then, we have pulled items that we could no longer show because we were running out of space, which is wonderful. So we're running out of space, so we needed more space. Therefore, the CAC has provided this wonderful space. We now have two completely different museums. The one in City Hall is more of a walkthrough, kind of for people who used to go to school there. It has a lot of Lake Helen artifacts. And the one in the CAC is more for groups. So you can entertain elementary school children, which the president of our Historic Society is going to be reaching out to all of the Volusia County schools, elementary schools, and inviting them in if they want to take a field trip to our museum. And we have a newly created movie room, which is brand new to the CAC. We have a movie room, and I have a collection. We have collected several movies that depict Volusia and West Volusia. We've got an Orange City movie, a Lake Helen movie. We have a turpentining movie, which I don't know if many of you know that West Volusia used to be heavy into the turpentining industry. I think I have a picture of it, but I didn't put them on the slide. I apologize for that, but we are so excited, and the Historic Society of Lake Helen is very excited and hoping to work very closely with the GEM and the city of Lake Helen. So come down and see the museums. They're very interesting, and they're lovely to walk through, and I'm sure if you've been here for any amount of time, you'll find something that's interesting to you. So as I turn it over to the last alphabet, which is outside, or outdoors.
I'll also be talking about outdoors. One thing I wanted to mention too is that we've just recently even had some really great groups in the community step forward and need space, and we're providing that space free of charge to the Friends of Blue Springs State Park. They just had a meeting in our venue, and they loved it. We also have Young Life holding weekly meetings there, and it's great for us to see that. We actually had to have a sign out front the other day. The free yoga class was this way, and the Friends of Blue Springs State Park is over here. And I love to see more of that in the future. But then O is outdoor, and what we did too is we took pages from the guidebook, and we tried to show how we can closely relate what we're trying to do with what Echo wants. And for outdoor recreation, we're right by Blake Park, like we talked about. We have the tennis courts, the basketball courts. We're kind of an outdoor meeting hub for all of those events, and that's especially once we get this gem garden done, which we're starting construction or continuing construction this weekend for the outdoor garden area. We'll be able to host more outdoor meetings for outdoor events and outdoor recreation. And that's what, just to kind of summarize the scope change, what we're asking the scope change to be, we feel like really closely matches the Echo vision, more closely than the scope that was approved in 2004 does. And we hope you guys agree.
Okay. Kendra, Blake Park, is that part of that grant?
No, it's not Blake Park.
Okay.
The reason I mentioned Blake Park is that's where the Cultural Arts Center is located within that park. I also wanted to mention that the Historical Society in Lake Helen, the private group that the city partners with, Your ECHO grant, which helped us with City Hall, expired several years ago there at City Hall, but yet our historical board still has the museum open and active there. It wasn't just something that we perfunctorily did to satisfy a grant. We're very pleased to be an active participant in
I
this.
don't think the grant's expired, has it yet?
No, City Hall.
City
It expired
Hall?
a couple of years ago, I believe.
I don't think so.
And
Isn't
that's
it-
my
isn't it
understanding.
40, wasn't it originally 40 years?
And I think the Cultural Arts Cafe or Center is, but I don't believe the
they're
City
all-
Hall was. If I'm wrong, it's irrelevant because we believe it and we're still there. So my point is not moot. But we appreciate the Historic Board who is maintaining an open museum 6 out of 7 days a week, plus anytime we have open festivals in the park, there will also be opening additionally on Sunday as well there in the Cultural Arts Center. And so
What are the hours of the Cultural Arts Center?
the hours of the Cultural Arts Center are 10 to 4.
So that
and-
building is open from 10 to 4 daily?
Yes.
Okay, can we get that on the mic? Somebody tell me.
We are going to be open from 10 to 4. In 2 weeks, we're having a grand opening, and it will be open from 10 to 4 at that.
Okay. Thank you. I will ask Kendra if you would reiterate why we are here and whether staff has reviewed their presentation and their changes and how that integrates with what the original grant was.
So we're here to approve this scope change. They're asking to change what they originally, the original scope was in 2004. They had a scope change in 2017. So now they're asking to change it once again. The new cultural events that they've included, I believe some would meet the ECHO activities. The hours of operation, I know he said 10 to 4. The slide said 10 to 4 on Friday, Saturday, open during special
Yeah,
events.
It just said Friday, Saturday.
Yes, so if they could just clarify that. But the cultural aspect of it, if they have those events.
What about the garden?
The garden would be environmental. I believe it would reach that as long as, it's open to the public. It looks like if it's outside, it would be accessible.
So, well, what does that mean? Is this going to be a community garden where you grow vegetables or what?
We have, the League for a Better Living has done some local plants, native plants.
Are they signed?
They plan to plant some of these, and they're going to have classes.
But they haven't done that yet.
They actually have one at City Hall now, but that's something with the construction that we're continuing tomorrow with the pavers. That's part of that construction as well.
Let me go down the line here, and I see Stacy wants to. Yeah, we'll all get our time.
I have the idea of needing a little more information. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to view the change of scope from 17, and I'm wondering if we can request from staff have that provided to us before making this decision. I'd also ask that we maybe have some of the monitoring reports. Maybe, we're going back 18 years here. I'm not asking for a whole lot, just maybe 1 every 5 years, an update of the usage and the visit.
I'm actually thinking that we need to take a road trip and maybe do that as part of our when do we have our, what's I don't have the calendar in front.
The next scheduled tours is January 26th.
Okay, it would be, I think we have to go look at this because I'm sitting here and I'm hearing lots of vague stuff.
So we can include it in the schedule when we just opened up the cycle. We're not sure how many applicants we'll get, but like we did the previous cycle, we can include it in the tour, the schedule.
Okay. You like that idea? Okay. Is there any David, you have anything you want to? Okay. I think part of the cycle that will get, because you're doing plantings, that'll give you a chance to it'll give them a couple of more months to have something in place that we can see. And the information that Stacy wants, we need to have that available as well. Okay. Sarah Lee, you have anything? Mr. Patterson? No? Mr. Pendergrass? You always have something.
I always have something to say. But yeah, I think it's a great idea that we do a field trip. I really like the idea. It will give Lake Helen another 60 days or so to 90 days, however it is, to implement the ideas that they're talking about. It sounds like the plan that they're talking about is moving in the right direction. And I also concur with Stacy. I think it'd be very interesting to have the first scope, the second scope, and the third scope, so you could see exactly how this is, progressing. And but I think you're doing really good work and moving forward, and I look forward to our field trip.
Kendra?
So
I love field trips too, with you.
we did a comparison last time. I'll make sure I include the original scope. We only compare it to the current scope, so I'll make sure you get that along with the monitoring reports, one every 5 years. Is that sufficient, or? Oh, okay, I'll make sure you get that.
And so we need to take a motion on that to defer this until the January 26th. Okay, do I have a motion from
So
somebody?
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead.
A motion to delay the decision with the request for additional information.
And include the field trip for just.
To include the January 26th field trip to the site.
And I second it.
Okay, is there any comment on that? Otherwise, please by voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Reggie, if you're there, I apologize because I did not go to you during that other discussion, and I just feel awful. So where do you stand on this?
I agree.
Okay,
I think
thank you.
doing the field trip is a good idea, and to defer voting when the approval of it.
Okay, all right. So I think we have a temporary resolution to this, and we thank you for coming out.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Yep.
Right. Okay, and so now we will go on to 2022 ECHO Advisory Committee Annual Report discussion, but I just have to share this before we do that. I want to share with you, there are these two little soldiers here by Billy Wheeler's desk. So I texted Billy because I was intrigued by them, and I said, sitting in your seat for ECHO, what's the story behind these two guys? And I had taken a picture. So she says, one mysteriously appeared at my first day of being on the dais. The second one appeared after the second election. So go, Billy, go. This is, I guess, like, yeah. So anyway, it was just funny. I said, where'd they come from? So I don't know, but I love it. I love the fact that it's kind of one of those things that you have sitting there that gives you power and gives you energy.
Yes.
So anyway, that was just a diversion. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Sometimes we need those. So like Pat said, the next item is the 2022 accomplishments that the ECHO committee made. That's in a draft. Staff put these together for you to review and to discuss. Just to note, the work plan discussion is going to be January 12th. We wanted to bring back the environmental, the historic comments, and also the needs survey, as I mentioned earlier, so that you could have those items to help mold your work plan. So today, you don't have to take action on this. We can take action on this along with the work plan once we get those finalized. And then it will be presented to County Council once it's approved by the committee. So if you just want to discuss, if you have comments, if you need have questions of us of what we've included, please let me know.
Okay. Is there any, Sarah Lee?
I just have one comment. I would like to see, when I read this, what made me think about it was item number 3, when you talk about the applications submitted, reviewed, toured, scored. Somewhere in here, I think it would be nice to identify the value of grants.
I like that.
approved.
Can we do that?
Yes,
I like that
yes,
idea. I
yep.
think that really helps us, because this is a public document. That really sends a nice signal. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Is there anything specific, Kendra, from your perspective that is different than what we did before that you need to point out to us?
No, this is similar
This-
to what was done
It
previously.
looked that way to me.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
it was similar, and the work plans will be the same way. I think included in your packet are the goals that you created last January. I think it was January, that were approved. So that's in there, so you can compare with what we've done with the annual accomplishments with the goals that you had set up. So.
David, I'll go down the line.
I like that the value dollar amount that's been approved. I can't remember, but on our homepage, is there the total value too of what was approved over the years?
So on the dashboard,
Yeah,
yes, is
I
the
think
total,
I
yes, the
saw it
total
there.
investment, including
Right.
match and the partners. And then it's
Okay.
also broken down by by Echo and
Echo.
partners. And then
Right.
it's broken down by just Echo and partners.
I like that a lot. That's a good add.
Yeah, I think
add
that
this
will
to
be
it.
a good inclusion in the annual
Sure.
report. Sarah Lee, you have anything else? Thank you. Stacy? Okay, Mr. Patterson? Mr. Pendergast?
No, I'm good with it.
Disappoint me.
Actually, it looks very good. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, okay, so we don't need to take an action, that's not an actionable item for purposes of this meeting. Well, you've got your, you know where we're coming from. Okay, all right. That brings us to advisory committee comments, and we'll start with Jay. We'll go this way. Jay, any advisory committee comments before we go to staff?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Mr. Patterson?
No.
Stacy?
Yes, unfortunately I do. So I know you were here today to talk about the scope change for 0418, which we just heard from Lake Ellen. Can we make a motion to look into the original scope and the fact that it hasn't been, I don't think they've met their obligations, and I want to address that as a separate issue. I realize we're going to, I guess I'm looking for direction from you, Pat. How can we ensure that they've met their obligation and kept the integrity of the ECHO program?
Do you have any thoughts on that, Kendra? Because I know that's a concern. This seems to feel like an evolving project, and that's all well and good, but that was not the intention of ECHO. I mean, ECHO was specific, it was approved specifically for a project. That project changed. It has gone far afield
Right.
from what that originally was.
So it's been out of compliance
And I
since
see Brad coming.
yes. Since 2021, it's been out of compliance. That's what they came
Right.
to us today, or
Yeah.
in July with the scope change. So,
So I guess, would your question be, how does the changes, if there's scope change to put this back into compliance with what was originally?
I see it as two different issues, actually. So the first issue, which hasn't been addressed, is the noncompliance and keeping the integrity of the program.
So at this point in time, this body made a recommendation to council, and council approved their scope change in 2017. So that is the scope that they're operating under right now, which is 80% museum and 20% restaurant. So that's really, that has, despite their having some compliance issues before that, we are working off of that approved scope by council.
Not the original one, but this new one. Oh,
not
but
the
council,
original.
okay.
So at this point, their scope is 80% museum, 20% restaurant. So we will give you the three so you can see the comparisons. I will be very blunt with you. They really didn't deliver on the original scope in terms of the project and what they promised to do. We did extend some grace because the county gave them some grace in terms of trying to come back into compliance, and that didn't work, so we're back here again.
You know, this almost feels like a do-over, that the original grant should be returned, and they should come back with a request for a new one. At least that's what it feels like to me right now. But I'm just throwing that out there. So I'm on record, because I liked what they presented, but it is far afield of what they had originally planned to do, and in fact, the second piece of it, the second time. So are we okay then if they'll get this information, and we'll have we'll go do the tour, and then we don't meet in December. No, okay. Unless there's something very specific that you need, I don't know how to address it any differently. I share your concern. Sarah Lee. Anything? David?
One thing, prior to the tour, will we have that information? Like the visits and all that, what was out of compliance and all that ahead of time?
Yes, I'll make sure I get it to you. Usually I send it out a week in advance, but with the tours and this additional information, I will try to get you the information before that, a couple of weeks at least in advance for you to review.
And I have a question about this upcoming grant cycle. When do we already did the meeting where the required
Yes,
meeting.
we did the mandatory workshop
And
last
how
Thursday.
many people did we have show up?
We had
or how many projects?
Yes, so we had seven people participate in person. We had 15 online.
Oh, okay.
So we had more virtual this time than last, and that may be due to the storm. It was a week
That's
after.
right, it was a week-
Unfortunately,
you're
we
right.
had to
We
actually
had to
postpone
change
it a week.
Yeah,
Yes,
I forgot that.
Yes,
yeah.
so I don't know if that affected some of the people attending. So hopefully we get a good pool from applicants.
And that leads me to my final comment, question. Historic stabilization of a project. I sent up to staff. I was out looking in the district and drove into Beck Park, and there is a giant oak tree that's probably 200 years old lying on the roof of the historic slaughterhouse, because Beck Ranch was a working ranch. And I don't know how much damage it's done, because the tree is still lying on there, and I'm sure that park staff will get to that to remove it. However, that was Beck Ranch was bought with Volusia Forever funds and developed with some ECHO funds. It was a combination. It would seem to me that there are maybe other items, other projects, historic projects around. And we got hit. We just got hit bad. And I would just suggest, I don't know if how council would feel about it, but I think we need to be lenient is not the word, but if we're going to preserve historic preservation projects, we need to recognize that there maybe was some damage to projects that we have previously approved, and that we provide resources for them to correct the damage, I guess. I don't know how you all feel about it. No comment? Okay.
I would just want to guarantee that we are fixing something as a result of the storm, and not just.
Well, this is a tree lying down on it after.
That's. I don't disagree with that. I'm just saying I just don't want to see.
I see what you're saying.
We
Yeah.
start paying for new
Well,
things.
we have an emergency historic stabilization, so I guess they could come forward under that. Would that be right, Brad? That include the county? Okay. All right.
Is that something that you guys review, like do an audit on everything that's out there and see if any damage occurred during the storm?
County does as a whole, yes. ECHO does not. So I'm sure they're aware. I will reach out to Tim Bailey to see where the process is in getting that tree removed, and what funding. That may be some FEMA funding they may be receiving. So it's something we'll just have to reach out to him.
Right, even the trails. I assume
I was
you,
just
you
getting ready to say the
paddled
trails.
all the trails after the storm to check
Green
it out.
Spring is still closed too.
Just the trails. I mean, the trees that have come down across trails and
Mhm.
damage any of the filling stations or air stations or whatever.
Well, I'm going to leave that with staff to think about and maybe work out something that we can do. Okay. Staff comments. Let me start with Russ. Have any comment? Okay. Brad, any comment? Kendra?
Yes, I know I said it numerous times, so our next meeting is January 12th. Just make note, it's at 9 a.m. All of our meetings going forward will begin at 9 instead of 1. So that's on the calendar we sent out. And that's basically the work plan meeting is what we're going to discuss. And unless anything else comes up in between now and then, mostly just the work plan is going to be in that agenda. And just make note, the next meeting after that is January 26th, the tours. And then February 17th meeting is the grant review panel. It's on a Friday instead of a Thursday. We had to reschedule that due to a conflict. So just make note of that. Might be a little off what your normal schedule is. It'll be February 17th.
Can you send that out in an email?
I will send it again. Yes. Send it again.
Okay, that's it. Any further any further business? If not, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.
Hello.
Oh, somebody wants those, don't they?
Hey, Megan, I'm doing okay. How are you?
Bye. Bye, Reggie. Bye. You have a good, a week? You're going to be on and out a week, though. Right, but then you're going for yours. Yeah, enjoy it. Okay, enjoy it.